This is a 28storms.com update on Friday, November 18th. Over the last couple of days, we have mentioned that there is a slight chance of subtropical development in the central Atlantic, especially in the medium range, and the latest Hurricane Center outlook is outlining this area as having a 10% chance of development within the next 48 hours. And of course, we're still dealing with our eastern Pacific area of low pressure, and the Hurricane Center has raised the chances of that one developing to 40% within the next 48 hours. And on the latest surface analysis, you can see overall what is occurring. We have two tropical waves in the central Atlantic interacting with an upper level low that you will soon see on the water vapor animation, and the area of low pressure is still along the monsoon trough in the eastern Pacific, but it is deepening ever so gradually. It's now down to 1007 millibars. The latest enhanced infrared satellite animation of the central Atlantic is rather impressive, with a strong fetch of low level moisture and a lot of lift out toward the east of this upper level low that we can see a little bit better on the water vapor. And usually this type of pattern would be highly unfavorable for any true tropical development. We have a lot of southerly and southwesterly wind shear in this area, but if the convection can persist in one area for an extended enough period of time, we may begin to see some subtropical development, much like we saw with subtropical storm Sean a couple weeks ago. So this will be one area to watch, but the good news is that anything that will form in the central Atlantic will be turned toward the northeast and away from land. Now if we switch back over to the visible image, we can see that the tropical low in the eastern Pacific has not changed all that much in the overall organization over the last 24 hours, but the upper level winds still appear to be conducive for at least some slow development, and we see that the moisture profile is beginning to moisten even more, just a little bit from day to day, and the upper level outflow pattern appears to be somewhat favorable here, and all of the models are continuing to show a very slow development into a minimal tropical cyclone for the next 3 to 5 days. We are now looking at the 12Z run from the GFS model, and as we see for yet another day, the models are developing the system in the eastern Pacific, but the one subtle change compared to previous model cycles is that the models are taking that system more toward the west, so it is becoming increasingly unlikely that this system will make a turn closer to Mexico. And as you may recall from the prior videos, that even if it did make that turn toward the north, it would likely dissipate before reaching the coast due to increasing vertical wind shear, and also the fact that it would have to move into cooler water temperatures to make that turn closer toward, say, the Baja Peninsula. But again, the GFS is now taking the system more toward the west, and if we start the animation over again, you will also notice that as we go into 72 and 96 hours, that is the best chance for subtropical development in the Atlantic before that system is turned toward the northeast and becomes absorbed by a non-tropical front. The latest run of the Canadian CMC model also is developing that eastern Pacific system, and much like the GFS, it is now missing a trough toward the north, so it's going to continue advancing toward the west-northwest over the next 6 days, not impacting any land masses. And as we start the animation one more time, we can see that the model is still trying to develop a subtropical system in the same general area that the GFS is before it moves off toward the northeast. Previous runs of the ECMWF have not been so aggressive with the idea or prospects of Central Atlantic subtropical development, but the latest 12Z run does appear to develop the system a little bit quicker than previous model cycles, and it's down to almost 1000 millibars out here into the Central Atlantic. And as we go into 96 hours, it begins to lift the system north a little bit quicker than the CMC and GFS. So by this point, it's beginning to acquire subtropical, or should I say fully non-tropical characteristics. So this is most certainly not a hurricane, and the pressure is down to 992 millibars. And the other feature, the one in the eastern Pacific, is to the west of this frame, but the other sources for the ECMWF show the system continuing to strengthen, but moving away from land. So we have two tropical systems that have a good chance of developing, but neither one will pose any threat to land. So with less than 2 weeks left of hurricane season 2011, we are looking to be in fairly good shape here as we begin to finalize the season for good. And we will just have a few more updates left here at 28storms.com regarding the hurricane season in the Atlantic and Eastern Pacific. But don't forget to check out 28storms.com/cyclone as the cyclone season down in the southern hemisphere really begins to heat up. And of course the homepage 28storms.com, where we will continue to monitor the U.S. severe weather aspect of things, along with the wintry weather episodes, especially the ones that impact the U.S. East Coast.